In 3, 2, 1. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Carolinas Weather Group. It is Wednesday, May the 11th, just a little bit after 8 o'clock. We're happy to have you joining us this evening as we're talking about being prepared for severe weather and hurricanes and earthquakes and everything else. As you've seen the past couple of days, especially in the news with Oklahoma and out in the Midwest, a lot of violent tornadoes have struck that area. So what a great time to have Cheryl on with us tonight to kind of talk to us about how we can prepare ourselves and our families and maybe even our work family as we're at work or school, how to get prepared for severe weather and what we need in our disaster kits and stuff like that. And if you watched our show for a while, you knew that Cheryl was a guest. I think it was back in March of last year, so we're happy to have Cheryl back with us tonight, and we'll let her catch you up on all what she's been doing here recently here in just a little bit. But before we do that, let's do a couple of housekeeping rules. This is a live broadcast, so if you do have any questions, please feel free to submit them via Twitter or Facebook. We'll make sure to get those answered for you. And if you're watching on the rebroadcast, we'll let Cheryl hand out her or give out her Twitter handle and all that at the end of the show, and you can communicate directly with her. Also, if you are listening on the podcast, all of our podcasts, I believe, are up to date now, so make sure that you check out your favorite podcast store and get those downloaded so you can be up to date with what we've been doing here at the Carolinas Weather Group. It's been kind of a relatively quiet week compared to what we were facing last week, but let's kind of go around to the panelists and have them introduce themselves and kind of talk about what's been going on in their neck of the woods. So I'm going to start down with my buddy Shay, who is in Charleston tonight. Shay?
Hi, Scotty. Yeah, Shay Gibson here with Weather Flow, and we're talking about the southeast region. It's been very spring-like. So as Brad Panovich said earlier in one of his tweets, 393 million Americans are experiencing spring right now. So we're right in the middle of it. We're seeing a few summertime patterns here as far as sea breezes go and some convective activities, but sea surface temperatures are hovering right around 72 to 73. They'll warm and they'll cool back down and they'll warm again, but I think we're going to start seeing some mid-70s by early next week, if not before that. So no tropical activity expected off of our coast, no homegrown systems. The Gulf Stream remains warm, but nothing's really coming off the tail end of any of these fronts as our cooler shelf waters keep that area a little bit more on the stable side. Yeah, we'll talk about El Nino here in a little bit if you want me to do a quick update on that as well. So back to you.
All right, yeah, Shay, we'll check in with that in just a second. Let's go up the coastline a few hundred miles, maybe 1,000, something like that. Let's go to Peter, who is in Jersey this evening. Peter, how's things going up in your area tonight?
We should look that up on Google, how long that takes.
I'm doing it right now.
There you go. See, I knew somebody would do it. Weather's been pretty blah here. I've been saying this like the last few weeks. It's been cloudy, it's been rainy, damp. It's just been not fun at all. But, you know, I need to give a shameless plug to Old Navy today because I picked up these great plaid shirts that I'm really hoping I could wear sometime soon because they're short sleeve, and it's been pretty cold out. So I have to stick to the long sleeve for now. But hopefully sometime soon I can wear these. I don't know. But maybe you guys should send up the warmer weather to this area. I would love you for that.
Peter, it looks like you got some of the spring and summer colors going here. Some pastels, maybe some pinks and salmons.
I do. You know, no black or anything dark. You know, can't do that.
That's Peter, our plaidologist, telling us about what's going on. All right, let's go down to Charlotte, North Carolina, and Mr. James Brierton. James, do you have our answer yet?
By road, 679 miles from Charleston to Philadelphia. I was going to guess 700 for the record.
Wow.
So.
Wow. That would have been a good guess.
Well, yeah, it's not that long of a drive. Shay, why don't you start now, and we'll see how long it takes you.
Be right over.
Scotty, I don't know what the weather's been like in your neck of the woods today. If you got any rain, it was pretty quiet here on the south side of Charlotte. It was muggy. I was hoping we'd get a little rain to kind of break that up a little bit, but we actually didn't end up getting anything. Different story a little south of the border into South Carolina. I spent the last week in Florida, left last Wednesday in the midst of all those storms that were rolling through, so that was kind of adventurous. But once that moved through, it was very dry, but very comfortable in Florida. It almost like you weren't in Florida because it was only like in the 70s, lower 80s, but it was very nice. So.
Wow. Yeah. That sounds nice now because you step outside here in the Carolinas and it's humid. I'm telling you, it is.
I know. I was hoping we'd get a little something to break that today, and it just never happened here. Did you get it?
We did actually here in the foothills and the mountains of North Carolina. We woke up about 7:30, 8 o'clock with rain and even some thunderstorms, and that continued through probably around 12:30, 1 o'clock today, and then the sun came out and got really hot and humid, and we thought with the SPC putting most of North Carolina under a slight risk that we may see some storms develop, but I think the cap was just a little too strong over the North Carolina area. Like you said, South Carolina, they got a few strong thunderstorms. I think even a few severe reports out of the Greenville, South Carolina area with some quarter-size hail. So
yeah, actually, I still got chat up, so I can see a little hail in Lancaster County, South Carolina, about half an inch. And more back across the upstate of South Carolina. All hail reports about the same size.
Yeah, and I think as we go on through tomorrow and Friday, it does look like we're going to have another few rounds of some strong to possibly severe storms, especially Thursday night and Friday here in the Carolinas. And Shay, I'm not sure about your area, but I know that complex is moving in, so you guys may even get in on the action.
Yeah, we could tonight. Depends on how far down that cold front will advance tonight. That sometimes will happen, and then it kind of stalls as a warm front. So basically, one large undulating front just sort of rippling through the Piedmonts of both states and all the way over to the coastline. I think OBX is getting ready to get sacked over there by Elizabeth City and Columbia. I'm looking at GRE right now and seeing some thunderstorms trying to push down towards Myrtle Beach across Camden and Florence area right now. So yeah, there's definitely some convective activities going on just south of that undulating front, and that will continue through tomorrow.
All right. Well, while you have the mic, you want to go ahead and kind of give us our El Nino update for the week before we go over to Cheryl and start the show?
Sure. Let me share screen. Let me know when you can see it.
There you go.
We're good.
All right. Okay. All right. Well, El Nino, the ONI index 3.4 region has cooled a little bit. So what we're seeing right now is on our anomaly chart, we have this cooling going on right here just west of the Galapagos. There is a warm spot here, so Nino 1+2 region is fluctuating quite a bit with some of this warmer water just to its north and some of these cooler waters to the south. The thermocline is lifting, still lifting in this area. It's hanging right about, I think, between 20 and 50 meters, somewhere right in this area, and then it's lifting a little bit further up towards the surface over towards Nino region 3 and even over Nino region 3.4. One thing to notice is that the Atlantic is warming in the northwestern part of the North Atlantic. Our tropical zones just haven't gotten there yet, but this area is going to be one to watch. In fact, I was reading an article from AccuWeather, and they were sort of circling this area along the coastline to be watching for the beginning of the season. So just something to keep an eye on. But if we look at Nino region 4, here's the CDOS values, and we're sitting right about 0.794. So we're very close to that 0.5 mark, which would be putting it right into the neutral phase. Here's the ONI index 3.4 region, which just recently took a dive down to 0.803. So this would probably be the lowest it's been in quite some time, and it continues to fall. So that trend should continue downwards. Nino 3 staying right around 0.5 degrees. It's almost down into neutral phase as well. And here's the 1+2 region. You can see how much fluctuation that one's going through. There's a little bit of warming just north of the Galapagos. That's probably contributing to that being a little bit higher for this go-around. Overall, the last index was for I think it was February, March, April from INSEP is 1.6. So that's going to be the actual grade for the ONI index for the latest one until they come out with the next one, which I imagine probably going to be somewhere around 1.2, maybe 1.1, or even just a hair lower than that. So that's where we are with the El Nino phase as it continues to weaken slowly but surely into a neutral phase, probably by the end of the month, if not into June and early July. Back to you.
That's a perfect segue into talking tonight with our guest, Cheryl Nelson, who meteorologist, freelance meteorologist, but also focuses a lot on helping you and your family be prepared for severe weather. And Cheryl, as we bring you in, a lot of talk about El Nino transition into a neutral and then La Nina phase and how it could affect the tropics. So I guess that's maybe where we can start tonight is what do you guys see, and what do you see for hurricane season, and what are you telling the folks along the coastlines?
You know, it's funny that you ask, and first of all, thank you so much for having me on this show. Always a pleasure to be here. I appreciate it. And it's funny that we're talking about this because actually next week I am speaking with an insurance company down in the Fort Lauderdale, Florida area, and I'm doing a talk on hurricane preparedness. And part of my presentation focuses on El Nino, La Nina, and how that impacts hurricane season in the Atlantic Ocean. And from the research I've done, basically, during El Nino seasons, I think as we all know, because of the wind shear not being, or rather cutting off the tops of the storms, things are usually pretty quiet. But during both neutral and La Nina, we do see more storms, more activity in the Atlantic, and in particular, more of these hitting Florida during neutral and La Nina phases. So I do expect actually a more active hurricane season. I think people need to be ready for it because it's been quiet. In Florida, for example, they haven't had a hurricane since Wilma back, and that is just amazing to me. I think people have probably grown complacent, especially the younger generation. They probably think they don't have anything to worry about because they haven't experienced anything that they maybe remember. So it's going to be quite interesting as we head into the next several months.
And Cheryl, as you're talking with the insurance company, let's kind of focus on Florida right now because it has been numerous years since they've had a direct hit with a hurricane. What are you hearing people down there say about that? Are they kind of slugging off the idea of a hurricane hitting them since one's not affected their area in such a long time?
That's what some people are saying. In fact, over half of Floridians don't think hurricanes are a threat or don't feel vulnerable to hurricanes. That's based on a recent Mason-Dixon study. And I'm just going, oh my gosh, look at the map, people. Look where you live. And they're thinking they're not vulnerable to hurricanes. And something's going to happen. It's going to be a wake-up call. Hurricane Andrew back in 1992 kind of gives me the shivers because it only takes one, and if you get a Category 5 or, gosh, even anything in that part of the state, it's been so long since they've experienced anything like that. It's going to be scary, and there's going to be a lot of damage, and I just hope there's not loss of life.
And how do you think, let's just focus on tropics right now, how do you think social media will play into that when we do see a potential tropical system affect the area? We all know how social media is now getting the word out, but with Florida's population, you know, it's more young or else even a retirement area. So how do you think social media will affect that area and people getting the message from that form of media?
So I think it could be good and bad. Some of the older generations I don't think are on social media for the most part, so they probably won't see anything through that platform. The younger generations will, but then you have the quote-unquote amateur meteorologists or amateur weather enthusiasts, and you'll see all kinds of tweets and Facebook posts and everybody coming out with their own forecast. You're going to see lots of hype, and that's where it becomes really dicey in my opinion, because you're going to see people retweeting stuff that may or may not be accurate. So social media is great in one part because it gets the message out, people are aware, but then number two, you start to get all kinds of stuff flying around on social media and people don't know what's fact and what's fiction.
Well, let's kind of talk about what you're going to be telling those folks at the convention or the conference next week. Kind of talk about our folks who do live along the coast, or maybe even the folks who have rental property or own a beach house or something like that, what they need to do to have their families or even their property ready this upcoming hurricane season?
Number one is flood insurance, and I know a lot of people in Florida already have that, but many people, you'd be surprised, don't have flood insurance. And personally, I think if you live near any kind of water or even flat ground or you're at the bottom of a hill, I mean, all it takes is several inches of rain and you could have water in the lowest floor of your house or in your basement. All of a sudden you have a mold problem. So I'm not in a flood zone here in the Norfolk, Virginia area. I'm a little bit inland from the coast. However, I have flood insurance anyway because you never know what could happen, and I purchase it. But I'm going to tell them there is a 30-day waiting period. So if you want flood insurance because you see a hurricane coming in 7 days, guess what? It's not going to be active in 7 days. You have to wait 30 days. So it's something to think about now and something to do now. So that's one thing that I'm going to tell them to do. And also, more importantly, have a plan. Communicate this plan with everybody in your family. It's amazing because I'll ask people, just anybody on the street who I'm talking to, and I get all kinds of random answers. Hey, do you have a family communicated plan? And they go, no. I say, how about a family meeting place? Nope, don't have that either. So it's something that they don't think will happen, and they haven't had these discussions. And everybody waits until the last minute to have these discussions and then scrambles. People should do this now, then it would be a lot less stressful at the last minute.
Cheryl, I'm curious in your conversations with people how you successfully get through to some of the more stubborn folks out there. Just today I was talking to someone who lives in Nebraska, and she was adamant that, no, I don't own a weather radio. I'm more afraid of the basement than I am the tornado. And I was like, what are you talking about? So what techniques have you used? What evidence do you use when you're talking to these people to really help them overcome that hurdle?
Good question. So actually, on my presentation, I have a video, and it's titled, Are Americans Prepared? And I did go out to my local farmer's market, kind of a man on the street, Jay Leno style, and just ask people, put the microphone in front of them and said, hey, can I ask you a few questions about weather and preparedness? And most of them said, okay. So I'm on camera with them, and I would ask them, do you know the difference between a tornado watch and a warning? Most of them are like, no. I would ask them, hey, do you have a meeting place? Do you have flood insurance? And it's just amazing that these people don't know and they don't have a plan. So I'm actually showing this video to emphasize that point to the insurance company next week when I'm speaking with them to say, hey, look, guys, this represents Americans, and look how silly they look. Look how unprepared they are. Do you want this to be you? Do you want this to be your family? And I have Dr. Rick Knabb in my video as well, and I interviewed him, and he basically said, you know, look, I have a plan because I have a family. You know, he's got a wife, he's got kids. He goes, it is most important to me that I have a plan and I know what to do because I love my family and I want to keep them safe. And he goes, if for anything, do it for your family. Do it for your pets. Think about them. And then that sometimes gets people going like, oh, yeah, I wouldn't want anything to happen to my kids or to Fido. And it kind of puts a different light on it.
Well, Cheryl, I got a question for you. We've kind of batted around the idea of having a show about emergency management in states that border the coastline that can be affected by tropical cyclones. So, in your experience, how do you feel the states are prepared overall for evacuations from the coastline logistically? Do you feel most states are pretty compliant with what needs to be done? I mean, populations have grown in the last 10 years, no major landfalls. I think people have become really complacent about it, and I'm rather concerned about it. So in your experience, what do you see?
I think it's a disaster, to be completely honest with you. Everybody has the plan. They all have the maps. But guess what? People don't want to leave their homes. They don't want to leave their property. And they're going to wait until the very last minute. They're not going to evacuate 2 or 3 days prior. No, they're going to wait until it's too late, and all of a sudden you get a big traffic jam, and then the tropical storm force winds start coming in, and everybody is stuck on the road. People run out of gas. We've seen that in other storms before, and that is what I envision in most locations on the coast, especially in the summer. People are on vacation. They're not thinking about hurricanes. They don't have a plan to evacuate because they're on vacation. They don't know the area. They don't have a paper map. They don't have a disaster kit that everybody should have both at home and in their car. And I mean, I could go on and on about this, but everybody can say they're ready, they have a plan. I mean, here in Hampton Roads, Virginia, where I am, with all the bridge tunnels that we have, I mean, they shut down. They close when you get to winds over a certain mile an hour. And that really worries me about this area in particular. We get really bad tidal flooding here a lot as well. And once those tunnels and bridges close, ooh, it's going to be a gridlock.
Yeah, we had Hurricane Floyd that had its eyes on us here in Charleston, and that was 2005, I believe it was, or no, I think it was 2005. Anyways, it ended up being a situation where people were getting prepared and they were leaving when they were told to leave, but then there was bottlenecking on the interstates getting out of Charleston, and so people ended up stuck for 24 to 30 hours and running out of gas, and so. That's the kind of thing that concerns me is now that how many other states are going to be in this position where you don't have many other places to go.
Right.
You think you're going to go south, and you never know if that thing takes a left, hooks into the coastline. The only place to go is west.
Yeah, and just getting out of those metropolitan areas along the coast. I mean, from Florida all the way up to New England, all the way over to Texas, I think it would just be a mess no matter where you are because people don't heed the warnings and then they wait. They wait until they see the impacts, until they see the water rising or the winds getting really bad. And then they go, oh, maybe we should get out of here. And that's the worst time to go. At that point, you just got to hunker down. If you stay, you got to hunker down. Don't go anywhere because that's when most people end up getting killed or hurt is when they get caught in floodwaters or trees, power lines fall on their cars. And that's when a lot of the danger happens.
So getting into a vehicle, and when people are packing up to leave and evacuate by car, what do you suggest would be the right things to take? I know people want to put everything they can into their cars. What do you suggest?
And can you guys still hear me? Okay, I thought I was frozen. Am I still here?
Yep, we got.
Yep.
Okay, good. The necessities that you need to survive. So you don't know how long you're going to be gone. So 1 gallon of water per person for at least 3 days. You need non-perishable foods because you don't know if anything is going to be open. How far are you going to get on the road? You could be stranded. You don't know. That's going to be important. Medications are huge. I always tell people at least a 2-week supply of medications. You may not be able to get back for 2 weeks. Pharmacies might be closed. You might run out, so just have that on hand as well. First aid kit, that's going to be important. Have some tools with you, rain gear, sturdy boots, blankets to keep you warm. Obviously, cell phone, charger, paper map is going to be key because sometimes GPS not going to work. Cell phones might not work. If you get stranded somewhere, have a map so you know exactly where you are. I know this is old school, but it's important to have with you. Have cash in single dollar bills. And I tell people this is important because during and after a natural disaster, people don't have change. So let's say you want a bottle of water, all you have is a 20, you give them a 20 and they don't give you change because they don't have it. ATM's not going to work. So again, have the cash with you on hand. Have a full gas tank with you as well. Your pets, don't forget your pets. Bring them with you. Do not leave them at home, please. I am a big animal lover, so make sure you have pet records. Make sure you have important documents for them and yourself and your family. It's best to keep these on a flash drive. Your insurance documents, ID, I mean, anything that you would need, make sure you have all of that with you. I could keep going on and on, but these are going to be your basic necessities, toiletries, just things you would need to survive. Clothes, obviously, for at least 1 to 2 weeks.
Now, Cheryl, now say during a hurricane or something, you get a tornado warning. Now, most people probably don't know what to do during that. So can you explain where to go, what to do during a tornado warning?
Sure. So as you know, hurricanes can and do spawn tornadoes. And people think during a hurricane, oh, this is cool. I want to be by the window. I want to watch. And then there's a tornado warning, and they don't take it seriously because they think, oh, hurricane, tornado can't be that bad. And no, what you want to do is get to the lowest level of your building, get into an interior room, many walls between you and the outside as possible. A basement is best. However, if there's any kind of flooding going on, obviously you have to be careful with that. So an interior closet, interior bathroom, something like that in the center of the home on the lowest level that is safely possible.
Cheryl, have you found in your experience there's one issue, one weather type event that trumps all others when it comes to the ones that Americans are least prepared for?
Probably hurricanes, actually, because I think that they don't think they're going to happen. And tornadoes, I mean, yes, they happen quick. I think many people know what to do during a tornado. I think they know, okay, they may not go until they hear the wind and see something happening, but I think at least they know where to go. For a hurricane, they'll see it coming. They'll be like, it's 5 days away, and they'll just go on with their daily lives, do. And then all of a sudden it takes a sudden turn, and then they're not prepared at all. And they don't have a disaster kit. They don't have the things that they're supposed to have. And the hurricane is going to impact so many people, such a large geographic area. And then you have the inland flooding problem as well that can happen with hurricanes. So I just don't think Americans are prepared.
I think you're back with us. I think they were just dropped off for just a moment there, but I think we got most of that. I'm a little curious, and I was hoping you could speak a little to. I see that you're an ambassador for NOAA's Weather Ready Nation. What does that program entail for people who aren't familiar with it?
Yeah, so the ambassadors, that's something that NOAA is trying to do to really get the message out about being a weather-ready nation. So when I was Mrs. Virginia International in 2014, I became a NOAA weather-ready ambassador, and I went and did a lot of talks and presentations to work groups. I went to families, different organizations about preparedness, and talked to them about tips they can do, kind of like what we're doing today, just to spread word about it. And a lot of companies now, a lot of big companies are joining to make sure their own workforce are prepared as well. So it's a great initiative. It's growing. Tell people about it. If you have a company that you work for who is not an ambassador, easy to join. It's free, and it looks good.
And Cheryl, I hope you guys can see the photo that I'm sharing right now. We were just talking about tornadoes, and this picture was made yesterday as the Norman Forecast Office was out doing the storm surveys for the tornadoes that affected the Oklahoma area, and this was the Katy tornado EF4 that was upgraded today from an EF3 to an EF4, and this is what is left of the house, and all that we see is a couple of walls, and you can see the toilet and part of the bathtub. So tell us why the bathroom or an interior part of your home, which is what's the only thing is standing in this photo, tell us why that is one of the best places to be, if not the best place to be during a tornado.
Is she there? She may have dropped off.
Her thumbnail looks frozen. I was keeping my fingers crossed.
Maybe she can jump back on here in just a second, but
yeah, that was
There
some
there she is.
some
Sorry
incredible
about that. I
tornado.
dropped out. I'm back.
That's okay. That's okay. Did you hear all of our question, or do you want us to kind of refresh it?
I didn't hear anything. All
Okay.
I saw was a picture come up, and then my computer froze.
All right. Well, it was a photo of a house that was in the Katy, Oklahoma area. The area was hit by an EF4 tornado on Monday, and the only thing showing was the bathroom and just like an interior closet.
Yes.
Tell us why, because a lot of people, we know the basement's a good place to be, but a lot of people may not have basements, so they're trying to find an alternative place to seek shelter. Tell us why the interior part of your house, the bathroom, a closet, something like that, is such a good place to ride out a tornado.
Yeah, first of all, you want to be away from windows. You want to be in more of a restructured or better structured part of your house. So put as many walls between you and outside as possible. And that's key, because when a tornado comes through, if it's touching down all the way, it's going to go and blow through the home, and then it may go up, it may go down. But it's obviously going to hit the outside of your house first. And then if that single room there in the center is still standing, you have the greatest chance of survival at that point. It's all about the number of walls between you and the outside as possible. Give yourself as much protection around you as you can.
And another thing, I'm trying to find the photo right now as I talk, but there was a picture floating around on Facebook, and let me go to one of my buddies here, meteorologists out there, and they have the picture. But it shows a vehicle, a truck that was tossed. Here it is. Let me see if I can screen share this right quick for those who are watching tonight.
Speaking of that, I want to talk about an important point after you show this.
Okay, and can you guys see the picture now?
Oh, wow.
So this was a truck that was in the same tornado that we just saw the house from. Talk to us about why trucks or cars maybe are not a good place to ride out tornadoes, and especially when you're out in the open and you think you can outrun the tornado. Just vehicles are not a good place to be during tornadoes.
No, and I'm glad that you brought this up because this has been kind of a debate in the meteorological community as of lately, where in the past they've always said if you are in a car or a vehicle when you see a tornado or there's a tornado warning and you possibly see something coming, you should get out of that vehicle, run into a ditch, cover your head with your hands, and lay flat on the ground to make yourself as low to the ground as possible. However, now I'm starting to hear the weather community tell people, if you are in a car, get down low in the driver's seat. Or not in the driver's seat, but get down low in the floor and stay there. And I'm going, I don't agree with this. And here's why. Because a car in a tornado, it is relatively light compared to a house, for example. I mean, you see what happens with trailer parks, mobile homes. They get picked up, tossed. Well, a car is even lighter than that. So all of a sudden, tornado comes, car, ooh, fun, toy, throws it, smashes it like you saw in that picture there of the truck. And I'm sorry, but if somebody were trying to hunker down on the floor of the driver's seat in that vehicle, I don't think they would have survived. However, if they found an open area with a ditch, low-lying, and they lied flat on the ground, I think they would have a greater chance of survival. I mean, you want to be away from debris, trees, obviously, if it's possible. If you're in a wooded area, I don't know what to tell you at that point. At that point, you have to use your best judgment. But I think overall, a car is not a safe place to be. But I'd love to get your input on that. What do you guys think about that debate in the weather community?
Oh, I totally agree. I mean, I've seen a tornado, I think it was a couple of years ago in Dallas, Texas, actually picking up transfer trucks and just tossing them, you know. And you think of a transfer truck much heavier than a vehicle, a car, or a truck that you ride in. So I totally agree with you there. There's no need to be in a vehicle at all if a tornado is approaching you. It's just, it doesn't take a lot of wind to just pick that car up and toss it 200, 300, 400 yards down the road. I mean, we've seen with Mike Bettis and the storm chasing crew out in Oklahoma a few years ago. I mean, it's just very dangerous place to be.
So why do you think that's happening? Why do you think people in the weather community are telling people now to stay in the car?
I have a feeling it's probably related to just flying debris. I mean, do you want to get hit in the head by something flying around? I mean, you have a protective mechanism and a shield there. It's kind of a double-edged sword because the car is a death trap if it gets thrown in the air, even if you're down low, just like in the picture Sky showed. You're trapped or you could be fatally maimed in the process. And so, you know, on one hand, yes, it's safer in the car with debris flying if you're nearby, but if that thing's going to hit you, you got to think quick, and there may not be a ditch nearby to get out of the car. And
I know.
There may be a barbed wire fence right outside the car that you can get wrapped up in. I mean, it really is. That's a tough question. I mean, most people would probably stay in the car just because.
I know, and I tell people it's a judgment call. It is a judgment call based on where you are at that very given second, just like you said.
And it's very tricky, and I will just add to this conversation that I was very pleased when I recently saw the headlines, I believe it was out of Kansas, that they were adding storm shelters along the interstate. I think there's some responsibility and some things to work out there, but they were adding these, I think, relatively small but better than nothing structures along the turnpike there to give people some shelter, and I really thought that was a great thing because I was working one day. I was at the TV station in the Weather Center, thankfully, and I got a call from my cousin in Fargo, North Dakota. He was out on the interstate, and he was sandwiched between two tornado warnings. And I said, can you get to a shelter? Can you go anyplace? And, I mean, this is a part of the country where there is nothing. So I think there are a lot of scenarios out there, and I think, Cheryl, like you said, it really just comes down to your best judgment in that scenario. What do you do? And it's a tricky one.
So, Cheryl, here's one for you. Bridge overpass, yes or no?
I say no. I say no. Because of the funneling effect of the winds.
The Venturi effect underneath. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
I think because you're not going to be as low to the ground, you're going to be up under, you know what I'm talking about, like right under that bridge in that little nook, and that's where the winds could just funnel through. So no, I wouldn't do it. Mm-mm.
Yeah, that was actually going to be my next question. We've all seen the video of the Weather Channel. It seemed like it was, maybe early 90s, mid 90s of the storm chaser seeking shelter under the overpass. And as we're talking about vehicles, and I'd love to come back to the tornado conversation. I have a thing I want to talk about before we end the show. But as we're talking about vehicles, I guess one of the, or if not the most deadly form of weather in the United States is flooding. And it seems like it has become more of an epidemic to see vehicles traveling through floodwaters. I mean, I know it's always happened, but it seems like it's just really been an uptick in the past couple of years of just seeing numerous people think that they can challenge the floodwaters and drive through, and they end up being swept down the river or stream or whatever it may be that's flooding. Comes to mind the flood we had in South Carolina last year. I mean, there was 2 or 3 trucks live on the Weather Channel going through water that was just swept down the river. So, Cheryl, talk to us about, first of all, with the people you've talked to, have you talked about this topic with them and maybe what's going through their mind, why they think they can get through the floodwater? And then second of all, talk to us about why that floodwater is really dangerous even though it may be fairly shallow.
Yeah, I think a lot of people in particular, they drive through it because they don't know how deep it is, for one, and they think, oh, it can't be that bad, especially people who are in an SUV or a higher up vehicle because they think, oh, my vehicle is high off the ground, I'll be fine. Those are the ones in particular that always seem to drive through it. And no, I mean, I'm sorry, but you have 6 inches of water that can reach the bottom of many passenger cars. 12 inches of water, 1 foot, can float many vehicles. And then you get 2 feet of water, especially if it's rushing, that can sweep your vehicle away. And many people don't know this. They don't know it takes that little bit of water, but they think, oh gosh, I've got to get home or I've got to pick up my child at daycare, and that's all that's on their mind. They're not thinking logically when they drive into these floodwaters. They just think, oh, if I go real fast, I'll be able to get through it. And because it's, again, a spur-of-the-moment decision, and they're like, oh, I'm just going to go. And they don't think of any other alternative or any way around it because it comes on them so quickly. I think that's what happens. I mean, I think people know better, but they think, oh, I'll get through. I'll make it.
And it seems like, just numerous people doing this now. Talking about flooding, you were talking about the flood insurance. Not a lot of people, I'm trying to phrase my question here, not a lot of people have flood insurance. Even if you don't live along the coastline, I know we were talking about that with tropical systems, but talk to the people who maybe live in the Piedmont or the foothills or even the mountainous locations. Talk to those folks of why flood insurance is important, even though you don't per se live right in the floodplain, but close to it.
Exactly. I mean, look at South Carolina. Look at what happened last year with the flooding there. And, I mean, how many inches of rain did they get? 20-something?
We averaged around, it was sort of debatable, around 20 to 22 inches, but then some areas showed 24, about 2 feet to 26 inches. So, we had quite a bit. Also talk about flood zone A and B if you know those zones.
Flood zone A and B?
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually not familiar with A and B, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll let you talk about that one. However,
no. I thought maybe knowing about flood zones, you might have some idea of that. I think flood zone A is the most flood-prone areas, and then B is inset. A, you would have to have your house, I think, up 16 feet or higher up off the ground, and then flood zone B. I'm not that versed in it, just a little bit from living along the coastline and hearing some.
Shay, is it typically further away from the water, or higher in elevation, or a combination of both?
I think it depends on where you are in the flood zone. So those areas that are more prone to it, where they go out and they do studies on the property whenever they zone it, they look at, and it does have a little bit to do with elevation. I mean, along the immediate coastline, the floodplain, you don't see much elevation at all, but it does rise gradually as you go inland. So I think for the estuaries and creek basins and some of the shed water, or the flood zones inland, That'd be like flood zone B. Then A would be like immediate beaches, front, beach side, right along front beach and any of the barrier islands.
Interesting.
So, and then a lot of insurances aren't even covering homes there anymore. I mean, if you find a company, there might be one or two, and they charge a lot for it, but it costs to get the flood insurance along the barrier islands here in South Carolina.
Interesting, because the way I've heard of it is and maybe they also do this as well, by category of hurricane, that if it's a Category 2, then this area needs to evacuate. If it's a Category 3, then you need to evacuate at this point. That's the way that I've seen, at least for evacuation, with that. But that's interesting, though, about flood zones A and B. And obviously with flooding inland, I mean, yeah, you may not live in a flood zone per se. However, you get an event like what happened in South Carolina with all of the rain. Guess what? There's going to be a lot of flooding, and homeowners insurance does not cover flood damage, and a lot of people don't know this. And it doesn't take much. You get an inch of water on the first level of your house, and all of a sudden your floors are ruined, you have mold problems. That is expensive, and without flood insurance, you are paying for that out of pocket. So that's why I've always gotten it. I always will get it, because it's better to be safe than sorry.
Most of us that are in mortgages here along the coastline, it's rolled into the escrows, so a lot of people are paying that automatically. They're just, the flood insurance kind of comes with it as long as you're in an approved area.
Yeah, that's really good. And if it doesn't, then you have to go and contact your local insurance agent and buy it yourself. That's what I did.
I popped up some tweets on the screen. We're getting some feedback during tonight's show and want to pop those up to thank those people for contributing, encouraging other people to tweet us as well. Tyler writes in saying, another important thing to remember, when thunder roars, go indoors. I see Cheryl shaking her head on that one.
Oh, yeah. Good point, Tyler. Thanks for joining in. We appreciate that. And absolutely, that's another thing that really gets under my skin when people don't follow that rule, and especially ball games, soccer games, anybody who's outside, any school-aged kids, teenagers out there. I mean, I played softball all my life as a kid and a teenager, and I remember being out there in the outfield. I would see lightning, I would hear thunder, and we'd still be playing. And I'm going, okay, if you can hear thunder, you are close enough to be struck by lightning. This game needs to be halted right now. And same thing with golf course, or if you're out on the boat. I mean, let's say you're way out there in the boat and you might be pretty far from land. And so it's just things that people think, not a big deal, the storm's way over there. But, I mean, that's a problem. I mean, we hear about lightning strikes every year.
Absolutely, and it's always important to remind people there's really no such thing as heat lightning, right? If you're seeing lightning in the sky, it's lightning. Yes.
Oh, my God. When people say that, I'm going, no, that thunderstorm is just really far away. We can't hear it. But we can see the flash. So I've had to explain that. It's amazing how many people still believe in heat lightning.
Well, good luck convincing people in the South of that.
Yes.
Because I still believe in it.
And Rich from WJBF watching tonight says it's always important to stay tuned into your local broadcasters or your National Weather Service forecast to help avoid dangerous situations. Cheryl, do you find a good volume of people out there have weather radios?
Not as many as I would like. Many people rely on their cell phones. I mean, that's good too, but cell phones are only going to work. And let's say you get one severe storm and it knocks down a tower or disrupts service, and then all of a sudden you have more storms coming, and guess what? Your cell phone's not working anymore, or you lose power and you haven't charged it. I just think that there needs to be a backup method as well. You can't go wrong with the NOAA weather radio. And I like to say layer your protection, for example, and have your protection with the weather radio, with your cell phone. Have your internet. You can check the weather service, and with your local TV station meteorologist as well. It's a great point.
Any more tweets, James?
Let me check the tweet deck.
Come on, guys.
We can all look at my tweet deck together.
We want to hear more.
I know there's one other person getting ready to tweet in. They just said, I'm getting ready to send a tweet, so make sure you read it. But while they do that and while James is checking, one thing coming down the pipeline, it may be a few years now, and I know it's just in the talk stage right now in the Weather Enterprise. I attended a conference back in early March, the Tornado Conference out in Oklahoma, And they were talking about there could be a point where we could issue tornado warnings up to an hour in advance. And as you being a meteorologist who focuses on making sure people are prepared, what are your thoughts on that? Because I'm kind of torn on that because I don't know if that's the best idea.
I don't think people will take it seriously. I don't. I almost think that having a lead time, an average of 13 minutes, it's almost a good thing because it makes them take action immediately. They don't waste time. They don't sit around. Whereas if you give them an hour notice, they're like, I've got time. Oh, it's not going to happen. It'll probably go this way. And I don't know about that. I just think it's more cry wolf.
That was my thinking. If I have an hour before a tornado is going to hit me, I can go get my grandma, my aunts, my brother, and everybody else. I can go finish washing the car, or I can finish dinner, or put the laundry up. You know, I'm kind of pushing it off, and then I lose track of that hour. And if the tornado does survive, voila, there it is. So I'm really torn about that. I just don't know if that's the best thing to do.
Yeah, because we get a lot of warnings as it is, and whether it be severe thunderstorm warnings or tornado warnings, and I definitely feel like people don't take severe thunderstorm warnings seriously compared to tornadoes. I mean, nobody goes to an interior room during a severe thunderstorm warning. Right. I do. I take my cats in there, and I go to my interior room because I know what straight line winds can do. And if a tree falls on my house, I don't want to be on the top floor.
Yeah, we actually talked about that back in the first part of April about this, the seriousness of severe thunderstorms. That people really don't take those as important as they should. So, James, I think you got a few more tweets up.
Yes, I think the screen share is still up here, and you can see this tweet from Lynn. What are some good ways for teachers to prepare his or her classroom for severe weather?
Oh, perfect. Thanks for the question, Lynn. And actually, there's a project that the Red Cross was doing, the Pillowcase Project. And this is kind of interesting. So anybody can take just a plain white pillowcase, and they have the kids decorate it in their class any way they want, anything that has to do with severe weather. So they can draw lightning, they can draw tornadoes, just they can make it a fun art project for them. And then what happens is they can take that pillowcase home, and then based on their family's financial situation, they can slowly fill it up with disaster kit items. I mean, it could be one a week, it could be one a month, whatever the family can afford, but it teaches them the necessities and what to have, and it makes it fun for them as well. And at the same time, it educates the parents as well and gets them involved, and then that gets the conversation going too on a plan, how to be prepared, have that meeting place, all those things that they need to be talking about.
Cheryl, in a situation like that, is there one item you recommend they start with?
I would always start with water. I think that's, I mean, you need water to survive. So definitely make sure you have some water in there.
That's a great idea. I'm taking that idea, and next year when I do school visits, I'm going to take a pillowcase. I didn't know about that until right now, so I'm going to Google that after the show and print off some stuff, and we're going to take that to the classroom next year.
Awesome. I think it's a great idea, and it's a great way to get kids involved, and they have fun with it too, and get to be creative.
Yeah, definitely. All right, guys, well, we're about 5 minutes away from 9 o'clock, so we'll kind of start winding the show down. Do any of you all have any more questions before we kind of finish up?
I want to know, do you guys have a disaster preparedness kit both in your home and in your car?
So I have a somewhat go bag in my car that needs some replenishing, and
it's not replenished.
Well, it's kind of there, and I had a household kit, but I've kind of looted it over the time. So I've got the hand crank radio that's here, but it's not with the rest of the stuff. So it needs to be consolidated. Spring cleaning is in order, Cheryl.
Okay, you know what I do? I've got my kit in my home. It's in a big Red Cross backpack, and I keep it in a place that's easily accessible, and I take it into my interior room during tornado warnings with me.
I kind of want to go out to my car and get my backpack now.
Well,
How about the
Cheryl,
rest of you?
Cheryl, you hit on something, and guys, if you have anything, you can jump in after this. But you're talking about pets, and my dog has been walking in and out of the room here while I've been doing this interview. So, talk to us about what we should do for our pets and how we should be have them prepared just as well as we should be prepared.
I always tell people, make sure you have your pet microchipped and have a collar with a tag. If you can't afford it, have one or the other. Do something. Also have a picture of you and your pet together to prove ownership if you get separated. Have a copy of your pet's rabies vaccination, other important documents, and that way, because if you need to go to a shelter, they won't let you in a lot of the times if you don't have proof that your pet has been vaccinated for rabies, for example. Have some food for them, medications for them, toys, blankets, a pet carrier for every pet. Those are the necessities that you'll need.
Will this count as my photo?
Aw, hi.
Can you say hi now?
Hi, honey.
I tried to get my dog, but she ran under the bed, so she's
Never
camera shy.
Any of my pets come up. Oh, hi.
Peter, Shay, do you want to share your pets while we're on?
Well, I have an imaginary.
Ours is not here. Ours is off at training right now. So I think she's coming back maybe Friday or Saturday this week. She's a service dog. She's beautiful. So
Awesome.
don't have her here with us, but
Hi. There she is. This is Adeline. Mwah.
Hello, Adeline.
She's a sweetheart. Yeah, okay.
My cat's hiding.
Aww.
All right, guys. Well, we have anything else for Cheryl before we kind of log off tonight?
Do the rest of you guys have kits?
I have one in my car. I do not have one at home, which I will go get one right now. I will start making it right now. But I do have one in my car, so I'm halfway there.
All right.
I have to admit, mine has been strewn apart over the years, and yeah, I mean, we look at weather all the time, and you're right. You got me. Need to get it together.
You guys.
Peter's going to save us, though. Peter, you have your kit, right?
Well, can I lie? No. I have no pets and I have no kits.
We're too busy watching it up to the point of disaster.
Yes.
Yeah. God. I think she may have.
She lagged off. She doesn't want to talk to us anymore. No, I'm kidding.
She was so shocked. She just left.
I made a great kit before the flooding event that ended up hitting South Carolina last year when it was still up in the air. I went to Walmart, I bought all this water, and that's where I got the hand crank radio, and it's been a year, and things have kind of... You know that emergency reserve that you're not supposed to touch except for in emergencies?
You touch it, don't you?
Yeah.
You get hungry.
That's right.
So I'm sorry. You know what? I think Cheryl brings up a good point, and that is it's that time of year when we're getting ready into the summer season. So I think I will add some items to my grocery list next time I go out. Replenish the water supply.
We get one of those straight line wind events and power's out for a few days. Hey,
how about this? Does this get me any points? I have a solar panel that I can use to charge things. Small electronics.
Wow.
Wow.
You're more prepared than most of us here.
No, I'm fully prepared. But
all right, Cheryl, he's calling you out. Where's your solar panel at?
I know. He wants to send me one. I accept gifts.
Hey, we've got solar panel weather stations that aren't going to go offline, so we're good.
I know. I keep going offline. I keep dropping off.
That's normally Scotty's thing during the show.
I know. It's okay. We had a stern talking with AT&T today, so I believe my issues may be fixed for now until they get mad at me again.
Next.
That's it. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, Cheryl, I want to give you the opportunity, kind of share with our followers and those who are watching right now how they can keep up with you via Twitter or Facebook or TV or however you want to share the information.
Yeah, so I'm on Twitter at Cheryl Nelson WX. That's CHERYL, Nelson NELSON WX for weather. Right, stop it. And see what happens when I let her into the room. Now she's causing a ruckus. But yeah, also I've got my website, CherylNelson.net, and you can follow me there as well. I've got videos there. I also do some teaching for FEMA's Natural Disaster Preparedness Training Center. And so I travel around the country teaching people, emergency managers, first responders, how to prepare for disasters and just some inside information about meteorology too that's helpful. So I'd love to connect with you on social media, and this has been really fun, guys.
Yeah, we appreciate having you on, and hopefully we can get you back on maybe this time around next year and kind of remind everyone.
Great.
And we will all have our kits ready to go.
All right, I'm holding you to that, guys.
Hopefully
Okay.
long before next year.
There's going to be a survey and a checklist, and you're going to get graded.
Uh-oh.
I would expect nothing less.
Peter, you just finished your test. You better watch out. You got a surprise pop quiz coming up.
Had enough finals for a week.
Aww.
Well,
All right,
Cheryl, thanks for all you do. We really appreciate it. I'm sure there's lots of other people out there who appreciated your hard work over the years. It certainly seems like you're well established in what you do, and we want to say thanks for all of it.
Thank you. It's a passion of mine, so it's not hard to do. I enjoy it.
Well, Cheryl, we appreciate you. Stick around. I got to ask you something after the show. So
Okay.
I want to ask you a quick question, but we appreciate you guys watching tonight. Again, if you're catching us on the rebroadcast, make sure you follow Cheryl on Twitter and give her a tweet telling her thank you for coming on the show tonight. Next week, we have Levi Cowan on with Tropical Tidbits as we kind of go back into the tropics and talking about what he's expecting to happen over the next few months as we enter into the tropical season. So Levi's on and then after that we're going to be talking with about earthquakes towards the end of the month, May 25th, I believe. Shay, is that correct?
Yes, May 25th. We have Stephen Jalmet from College of Charleston coming on to discuss earthquakes and the recent earthquake activity and some of the buzz going on the West Coast. We just want to touch base with an expert to kind of cut through the media and give us some facts. So tune into that for sure. I'm hoping he'll be coming on the show. He's got a wedding coming up, I think, next weekend. So we want to congratulate him on that if he's listening out there. But yes, hopefully we'll have him here on the 25th.
Definitely. And that's my birthday, so I expect cupcakes and ice cream and everything else that night.
Happy early birthday.
Thank you. All right, guys, have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys. Been a pleasure.